I have never experienced a month as I have so far with August 2024. And what I mean by that is things have flipped on their ear and are now lying on its side. Um, and I may lose people in the first minute of this segment of the Gig Geezer, but what I'm getting at is if you want to talk of dog days of the summer, if you want to talk of struggling, I can tell you about it in this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. Now, just starting off, I'm looking to my right, and I replaced an entire set of headlights on my F-150 that I'm in right now. An entire set of headlights, high beam, low beam, cost me $100. These are all what I'm talking about. H11s on the F-150. H11s on the F-150 are high beams. They're the ones on the top. And then 9005s are the low beams, which are these on the bottom. They cost me $100. Just 5 years ago, replacing an entire set of headlights cost $50, half as much. Well, that we're talking about inflation there, but it just speaks of how tough things are right now, how difficult things are right now. I mean, I really can't. Some days it's just very hard for me to put the words together. I have experienced more stress, more sleepless nights, more anxious moments than at any time that I've been involved with the gig economy, and that's been since September 2016. So I'm coming up upon 8 years in the gig economy. And in the nearly 2 years of my ownership and operation of a Sprinter/cargo van. As of this morning, Monday, August 19, 2024, I have just earned over or produced just over $4,000 for the month. That's what I would probably, under normal circumstances, that's probably what I would have earned by now, this time last week. So that means by August 12th, I'd probably be at $4,000. And that would be that'd be somewhere about a typical week for me. That's a significant drop. And I'm looking back on things. For example, if it were last mile gig delivery apps, for example, like on freight. This time last year, there would be drivers like myself who would be up by now looking for orders coming across on our phone from the freight app. Orders that were really decent, worth your while. Orders paying $200-$300. Orders at a minimum paying, depending on what you pick, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70. Now on freight, you may see 3 or 4 orders the entire day, and those orders, they're shameful. And I've hinted at things like this in previous segments of the Gig Geezer this year. I talked about how apps put out their orders, how they come up with the order amounts that they do. I talked about how is this the new norm? I've talked about how the aggregator, OneRail, has pretty much imposed its will on the gig apps, and they are now genuflecting to OneRail's directives. I'm sharing a lot of things somewhat randomly, but hopefully you get where I'm going with all this stuff. I mention about OneRail because I've often said that my revenue streams come from 4 different sources: brokered opportunities, last mile gig delivery apps, gig food delivery apps, and cash game /1099. The brokered opportunities in last mile gig delivery apps have, for the longest, comprised about 75 to 80% of the money that I've earned, or the money that I've often shared, having earned or produced in many of my gig geezer segments. That has, I mean, it's almost been non-existent this month. Brokered opportunities, I've completed 3 this month, and it's gotten to a point where pretty much I may have priced myself out, even with a broker whom I've completed a lot of loads for this year. We've not come together on opportunities for the past couple weeks now, for varied reasons. In one case, we were $25 apart. I wasn't moving because I felt that the number that I offered to them was the least that I would do it for. Well, they've been intent on holding this particular run for a certain range of dollars, and I'm not going to that point. And so it's often said, at least some conversations I've had with one driver here in the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, it's often been brought up that, hey, you got to be willing to lose in order to win. And sometimes that means losing out on certain things with the hope of finding an opportunity that's better than the one that you missed out on. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. And so what happens is that you say, well, okay, I'll come down another $25 on this, maybe another $50 on this. It's an opportunity. It's money earned. But the problem with that is, if you have any backbone about yourself, any awareness about doing business, what's probably going to happen is that you're going to be somewhere about halfway to 3/4 of the way having completed that order opportunity, and then reality is going to hit you. I'm paying these people to move their stuff. I'm not really making any money. Once I count for gas and whatever else that I may have to pay for along the way, I ain't making no money. And you do that time after time after time after time after time, and then you're complaining about you're not making any money. But then, as I've often said, if you're not making the money that you think you should be making, you need to look at yourself. You need to look at that mirror. I never thought that in the ownership and operation of the Sprinter/Cargo van that I would be having days, I would have experienced days, or a stretch of days, or a series of days in which 150 is a good day. But that's the way things have changed. I mentioned about the stress and the anxiety and the sleepless nights, to the point we've got certain responsibilities that we got to meet. One of my responsibilities is a $1,520 payment every month, 11 times out of a year, if memory serves me correct, with commercial insurance. And I mean, I've gone to the wire with making those payments. And you say, well, geezer, what's wrong with you, man? I mean, you're the one talking about doing business and all this and treating things as a business, and you're talking about how you've gone to the wire with making your payments. Things happen, man. I'm finding out that I'm not the only one who's dealing with things like this. I'm aware of a guy who's out of Atlanta who has a much larger operation in which he has other drivers, and he's had to meet his payroll by using credit cards. And he's just about maxed out his credit limits now, and so he's really in a tight situation. Well, I do things. Look, when your cash flow, here's what it is. In business, there's a term called cash flow. You got to have cash flow to keep things going. And when the cash flow is affected, it's been almost incapacitated. How else do you meet your day-to-day operation, your day-to-day costs, in addition to your monthly or long-term costs? Some people go out and get short-term loans. Some people finance with credit limits. They're all credit. It's all credit, and so so then now you take on you leveraging things. That's what you call leveraging. So now you've leveraged things, and you still got these other things that you got to take care of. Um, and what happens is if the cash flow continues to seize up, that's how you end up. That's how you end up going out of business, or on the brink of going out of business, or you really go through some very lean times until things get better. Um, I know I've talked for about 7, 8, 9 minutes into this segment of the Gig Geezer. And if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. So I'm really leveling with folk in this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. I'm not making any excuses. I am still current on things, but it's been very, 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 very tough this month. And well, Geezer, you got to put money back. You got to put money back. Well, here's the thing: you can put money back, but then things come up, and you use that money to handle those things. Or, in the case of some folk, they're able to have a credit line. Okay, when emergencies come up or situations come up, so then you leverage things. But then the leveraging is somewhat of a stopgap thing. But ideally, what you only want to be able to do is just deal with it a little bit here and there, and then be able to pay that back. And then you're still in a position. You're still in a better position. But what happens when things keep going? It's a constant pull. That's when you're in a distressed situation. And things happen. Again, things happen. So you can put money back, but then things happen and there's a pull on that money. And then at some point, that reserve no longer exists. But yet you're still out here doing everything you can to keep things going and hopefully be in a position where you can put back again. It's like with anything else. But I realized that there's going to be your cynics. There's going to be those who are going to take this is their opportunity to really set you in their crosshair and take real good shots at you. And some of the shots that will be fired at me are probably be hard enough shots to where it may cause me to double over or go to a knee. But I'm gonna straighten myself back up. I'm gonna grunt and groan and struggle to get back on my feet, and I'm gonna keep going. But you know what? And then again, there are those who are gonna say, "Well, Geezer, the way you're talking, I'm kind of wondering if you ever really made the money that you earned." Well, I earned the money that I've earned. I have earned since December 2022 in the ownership and operation of a Sprinter/cargo van. I have earned almost $200,000. So far this year, I've earned over $73,000. Last year was over 112, so I've earned over $180,000 since December 2022. But there's also been things that have had to be done, not only just in a professional standpoint, but in a personal standpoint. Just know that I've been operating at a profit, although the profit margins have been much thinner this year than last year. And some of that has to do with the quality and volume of opportunities. They're not there. They're just not there. I happened to talk to my next door neighbor who has a tractor trailer, and he's gotten on with the company. He's contracted with the company now, and what he's looking to do is use them to get him to next year and then see what happens. He wants to be independent again, but the move that he made a couple months ago was a good move. I've not felt comfortable getting on with a carrier because what I've seen with a carrier, you get on with a carrier, for me, it would be a pay cut. It would be a bigger pay cut because let's say a carrier gets you an opportunity, 500-mile run, paying $750. They're going to get their cut, and then they're going to get their cut, okay? And they've already negotiated at a number that's probably less than what you would get it for if you're negotiating it for yourself. And then you got to give them a cut, and you still got gas to pay for and whatever else. You're not making any money. So it's like, choose your poison. I would rather go down fighting for myself than go down having to pay somebody and still going down trying to fight for myself. That's what I'm getting at. So what are some of the other numbers? This past week, last work week, I earned just a tick over $1,400. The week before that, it was just a tick under $1,380. Those are F-150 numbers. Those are numbers that I've not seen back to back in ownership and operation of a Sprinter-sized cargo van. In fact, ironically, I mentioned about that stretch earlier in the year where it was 17, 17, and 15. And then at the end of last year, I earned $1,200 and $1,200. But this is supposed to be the busy time of the year. This is the summertime. This is supposed to be the busy time of the year. And when I made reference to freight a few minutes ago, it was because this is the time of year where you have things going on, but the economy is such that people aren't spending on those on construction and improvements and all that. They're not. It's in the news where Home Depot's announced a single-digit downtick in revenue. Lowe's is reporting the same thing, and so that has an effect to people like you and I at basically at the bottom feeder level. But there's a downturn rippling effect that affects everybody. And while I'm not going to get into someone's brand of politics, although I have openly said that I'm a liberal, and I don't ascribe to right-wing conservative political ideology. Even for the current administration to say that the economy is strong, or at least the fundamentals of the economy is strong. We heard that before in 2008, and then all hell broke loose. But regardless of what's being said, you and I see things differently. And I think we can agree on that. We see things differently. And that goes back to this point. Headlights. Set of headlights for both sides, high beam, low beam, $100. It's not the cost including somebody putting them in, because I put them in myself. That's just to buy them. Just imagine if I were to pay somebody to do the same thing that I did yesterday afternoon. So I've kind of bore my soul in this particular segment of the Gig Geezer, and I may have lost folk all the way by now. But if I haven't, thanks for listening to what I'm sharing in this particular segment. And if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm in Wood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.